What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Awakening World. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas. We are blessed to have Desiree kind of giving you an energetic imprint of what I and some of the other people here have to say tonight. And welcome. And it's going to be a really fun show. We are going to meet a wonderful woman, Julie Viscuso, who's got a bright light and lots to share. And the majority of the show is going to be learning all about a really wonderful organization that I'm very excited about. And what they're doing in the world is so important. And I think you're going to find that it's something that can impact all of us. So it's going to be a big show. We also have Ray Amana joining us a little bit later on in the evening. She'll play a couple of songs, but I really wanted to wake everybody up. Now, most of you know that Omar Shah is our house musical artist. He's still in England. He'll be back a week from tonight. But I thought to get everybody moving and grooving, instead of an Omar Shah song, I'm going to play a Cornflower song because Cornflower gets us up moving and grooving and dancing, well, as only Cornflower can. So this is actually a video from way back in the Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe days. But it's my favorite Cornflower song. I think some of you that are old timers will recognize it. And I still invite you to get up and move and groove, even though it's a video. So you're going to see people from, I think about 3 years ago when we had this particular segment. You'll see them dancing. So here we go. Here's Cornflower, and I'll see you on the other side.
And I'm beaming in live from Northeast Tennessee. And the song I've got for you is With All Things. So here we go.
flashlight again. Oh, go ahead.
All things I am one. With 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 all things I am I am the light, I am the sun, I am the moon, I am the love, I am the stars deep in the sky, I am the source of my own life. With all things I am one. With all things I am one. With all things I am one. With all things I am I am the depth, I am the storm, I am the river, I am the flow, I am the silence deep in the trees, I am creation within every seed. With all things I am one. With all things I am one. With all things With all things I am one.
Yeah, I got everybody grooving and moving and all sorts of good stuff. Yeah. I'm going to go to gallery view for a moment just to see everybody. Most enjoyable musical pieces in the history of their show. Of course, the music is amazing. That's me from before. There we go. Thought I recognized that voice. Hey, everybody. Welcome all of our Awakening Worlders. And I see Wowza is in the audience. And I believe you just had a birthday, didn't you? If you
My
unmute for
89th birthday.
no, say it again because nobody's gonna believe it. How old are you?
89. Oh,
Amazing,
woo.
absolutely amazing. Well, wowza, it's great. I had seen you at a birthday, and I was delighted to see you come into the Zoom room just in time to move and groove to Cornflower. So happy birthday! And I can't wait to see the next 89 birthdays unfold.
Can't wait till 90. I'll have more clout.
Oh, well, we'll have to do your 90th birthday party on the Awakening World. That'll be fun. All right. Well, welcome. Great to have you with us.
Thank
I am going to get us started by bringing up someone we love. We love Dr. Kat. And Dr. Kat has been saying, because, I moved to Grass Valley. I'm actually in Nevada City right now, house sitting and dog sitting for my buddy Jonathan. Turns out that all of our presenters are in Nevada City. And Dr. Kat is going to introduce her girlfriend, Julie, who's going to be our first presenter. So Dr. Kat, take it away.
Hello. So all of your presenters are from Nevada City tonight?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's a Nevada City night. And and I happen to be in Nevada City myself tonight as well. So it's a Nevada City night.
Wow, that's great. Yeah. How synchronistic. Okay, so I'm so happy to introduce Julie. So I still remember when I met her. We met at a Kundalini yoga class, and honestly, it was like one of those moments where it was like love at first sight. Right? It was just this. I looked at her, our eyes locked, and I just felt like I had known her forever. It was this deep resonance, and really that moment. I mean, it's just been the best of friends ever since then. And the first thing that struck me about Julie was her big bright smile and those big smiling eyes. And what it made them even more special that day is that in that moment she had these rashes all over her face, these lupus rashes all over her face, and it really moved me because it just didn't even seem to bother her. She was just so full of life, just radiating joy. She was open. She was just radiant, luminous. She's one of the most luminous, radiant souls that I've ever known. And she inspires me daily because she's been faced with one of the biggest challenges that we as humans can face in this lifetime. And that is a life-threatening chronic disease. And she's come out even brighter and more inspiring on the other side. And I'm sure she's going to inspire you all tonight. And my love and my adoration for this woman is boundless. And I'm happy to introduce you to her.
Oh, thank you so much, Kat. I love you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. Thanks for introducing Julie to us. And Julie, I'm going to just let you share with our audience your story. At whatever point you want to show the trailer, you can.
Yeah.
That's all up to you.
Okay. Well, it's so great to be here with all of you. Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. This is such a treat, such an honor. Well, I have been on quite a spiritual quest. It's been a healing journey, but now that I look back at it, what seemed like a curse and a horrible, horrible thing now I can look at it as one of my greatest teachers. when I was 14, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, and it turned into quite an escapade, quite a troubling situation for a while. It started with arthritis, body pain, hair loss, rashes, all the works, and was really challenging for a really long time. I just kind of followed the flow of what the doctor said. But after some time, I have a really big journaling love. And from really starting to watch the patterns from my journaling, I started to really study myself, really the wisdom of Socrates, to know thyself. And I started to recognize patterns that were starting to create flares and what was creating inflammation in my body. So thankfully, at a young age, I started to really recognize what was creating flares and what was, causing disease and distress in my body, which was stress. And so with studying myself, I started to really notice the things that were making me unhappy and started to really recognize the language in which I was talking to myself. When my body would be going through something horrific, I would be mad at myself. I'd be mad at my body. And it was throughout these, cycles and patterns, I suddenly started to recognize, what if I started to be really kind to myself? What if I started to be gentle to my body while I was going through all of this? It's kind of like if a kid falls down, you don't yell at the kid. You pick the kid up and you hold them and you comfort them and you take care of them. Well, I started to do that for myself. And I started to change the way that I was eating, change the way that I was taking care of myself. And what I really started to put together in all of this was that lupus is your body, it's your immune system, and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's recognizing if you have something wrong, and it goes after it and it tries to fight it and take care of you. But with an autoimmune condition, it just gets a little overexcited and starts to go for what is, the issue, but then it starts to attack healthy tissues, and it starts to attack your body. And with journaling and writing over and over, I started to recognize that my body attacking itself, like they say, it's your body attacking yourself. I started to recognize through my journal that it was also my mind attacking myself. I started to recognize the negative loops that were happening. And so I really got positively obsessed with affirmations and speaking really kindly to myself. I just started repeating a list of affirmations over and over and over, trying to kind of rewire my brain and to start to see myself in this positive way. And I started to really recognize some wonderful, wonderful results from it. But it was, I just saw something today. I was talking about how it's kind of like we're in a simulation, and it's like a game, like you're playing on the TV. And it's like you're getting to a level, and you pass the level, and then you get more tools, and then you still have to go through all these obstacles, and then you get to the next, and then you pass that, and you get more tools. Well, I feel like that's everything I've been going through. So I learned the affirmations. It was like a tool. Then I got to the next one, and then my health got worse. So then I started to apply them, and then I had all these new things that started to happen. So I had to learn more tools. I started to study A Course in Miracles. I started to practice Kundalini. I started to learn how to activate my life force energy. And then it got more intense, and then it just kept going. So ultimately in my life, I've had to really learn how to watch my thoughts, and it hasn't changed what I've had to go through. I've had many experiences of losing my hair and rashes, like Kat mentioned, on my face. And that's been where the real practice has come, to have your, hair is such a big part of your identity. Your face is a big part of your identity. How do you still find love for yourself and see the beauty within? I had to really, one of the times I was I lost my hair, I remember praying about it really deeply and saying, how do I find fun in this? How do I still try to connect to my soul, which my essence is joy? I am a joyful person. And, how do you come back to that childlike essence within you? And that was what really started all the sparkles and feathers in my hair. I had lost so much of my hair. I literally was doing like a comb over with just whispers of hair. I had a friend put in some feathers. And this is where the mind-body connection is so powerful. I had no hair and just strands of feathers and big earrings to kind of cover it in. And my hair responded. It grew back. It started to grow back. And, and journaling through all of it and supporting myself through the hardest of moments, I started to really recognize that my body was listening and that it just wanted to be loved, especially when I was going through the hardest of situations. So the more I started to recognize that, the more I really wanted to show up for myself. I started writing love letters constantly. I remember sharing with Kat one time that I had written a letter to Lupus. Lupus, why are you so mad at me? What are you trying to show me? And stream of consciousness, it said, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you and support you as much as I can. And it was just recognizing that we're not against ourselves. There sometimes are things that are just trying to like break us open to find something deeper within ourselves. And that's why I'm saying that lupus has ended up becoming such a beautiful teacher for me, because I've discovered that I have so much love for myself, and it has allowed me to tap into this wellspring of love, even without the hair, even with the rashes. We are not just this body. We are a soul having a human experience. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to experience that so deeply. So, I've really practiced this for so long, and I got through a really beautiful, really intense wave of lupus, got out of it, and thought I had, gotten completely out of it. And I went into another deep dive of the lupus getting really intense and attacking my kidneys. I remember going through a wave of my body starting to swell. When your kidneys start to fail, your body can start to retain water. And again, I was confused with this. I thought that my it's confused and angry body. Why are you doing this? And ultimately later I realized that your body does that to actually protect you and your organs. Your body is always doing whatever it can to support you. And so when we start to work with it, it really is, it's an incredible thing to realize that our body is here and supporting us and working with us. I went into the hospital. I remember that I was lying in a hospital bed, 70 pounds of water weight, no hair, rash, lying there. And I remember I had been really looking up near-death experiences and spontaneous healings. And I prayed, God, why am I not having a miracle? Where is my miracle? And I remember getting this really interesting intuitive hit that it was me that didn't feel worthy of it. Like I still had all this residual anger and resentment toward myself that I've really recognized as a part of my dharma, my mission, is really letting go of all of these limiting beliefs. I now really spend a lot of time really focused on watching my thoughts and really learning how to support myself in so many ways. I ended up getting put on dialysis for 5.5 years. And I was really, in the beginning of it, after I had that realization, I became, again, really positively obsessed with healing. I decided that I was only going to think about healing. I was only going to allow my thoughts to focus on that I was going to heal. And for the first, I think, 6 or 7 months after I started on dialysis, watching my thoughts, being so hardcore and conscious about that, I actually started to watch my kidney function increase. It went from 9% to 13% to 15% to 23%. It went up to 34%, and was very rare for, I mean, the doctors were absolutely shocked. I went from 2 bags of solution of dialysis and 8.5 hours to one bag of solution to 1 treatment once a week. I was almost completely off, and then COVID happened, and I sort of lost my thought process due to feeling really frustrated with where the world was, and it feeling really backwards from the way I was thinking. And it was a good lesson. You know, I've really come to realize that everything is here for our highest and best. It was a really good moment for me to recognize again just how powerful our mind and our thoughts are. I don't regret that moment at all. I feel like everything shows up for us to learn and grow from. And I just saw that that was the case and got back to really watching my thoughts and being really positive. I started my dialysis again, and then proceeded for the next 4 years when I would set up my machine, being extremely grateful for this machine, really recognizing that there is so much beauty in Western and Eastern practices, and that this machine was a gift. It was allowing me to live my life, and really focusing on practicing on like how beautiful this machine was, and how it was so just whistling while I hooked myself up, singing while I hooked myself up, and really watching my thoughts. So, I mean, now I've officially gotten my transplant, and it's gone beautiful, and I've just been able to recognize that when you really show up for yourself in a positive, loving way, when you really speak to yourself in a positive, loving way, you can experience so many miracles through these things. My body has shown me so much. It has shown me the power of speaking to it in a loving way and watching the response from it. Things could have gone in a much different way. Things could have, none of these things that have happened to me could have gone in the way that they have. And I don't think that I would be as healthy and strong. I mean, I could. I don't know. I can't say that. But I know that from my experience, I'm extremely grateful for the knowledge of mind, body, and mind, body, and soul connection. And what I feel really drawn to now is supporting other people in really paying attention to the way that they speak to themselves. And recognizing, just how we speak to ourselves, how, I teach Kundalini now, and I'll have people tell themselves that they love themselves and that they're so grateful for who they are and all that they've accomplished. And I've really recognized that people are constantly criticizing themselves. They didn't say this right. They didn't do this right. They made a mistake over here, and they just hold on to that. And we really are so incredible. We're amazing, amazing people. And we have so much to love about ourselves. And I really believe that if we took more time to honor and love ourselves and to remember who we really are, that we would experience so many more blessings. My body responded extremely positively to the affirmations. They still do. I noticed my hair grew back, my skin healed, my arthritis went away. I felt stronger. My body healed faster. My body healed really fast from the kidney transplant, and I recently had a hip transplant as well. I mean, I've definitely been through the ringer, and I know that it matters how we are connecting with ourselves. I can't remember his name now, but there's that guy that did the test or the study with water, when you have the jugs or containers of water and you put positive words on them and they create
Flamingo.
really beautiful, yeah. And you create really beautiful crystal particles, and then you can also put something really negative on it and creates almost blobs. And we are, how many, 75, 85% water. So you can imagine what's happening to us if we're speaking to ourselves negatively. And I just feel like I've had the personal experience of really speaking to myself in a positive way. And mantras have been really great for that. And journaling's been really great for that, to really observe yourself, to really take note of what you are saying to yourself on the regular, and do you have a mantra? One I really love that I say all the time is the Ho'oponopono mantra. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Covers all of it. And one thing that's really great is, I know that this is going to be a practice forever. I'll never totally master it. It's very easy to notice that you've gone into a negative place. But the great thing is that if you do notice that, just notice it, realize that we're human, and then forgive yourself and just have that as I did it again, and then start again. I think one thing that I really recognize with doing a lot of work with people and myself in general is you notice that it's happening and then you loop. Oh yeah, I did it again. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I thought I had that in control. And then you're just like looping again and looping again. But if we could just acknowledge that it's probably going to happen, we're just going to do that. And then you just maybe giggle about it. Like, I did it again. Probably like, even if we have great balance and we're walking straight all the time, going to stumble on something. It happens, you just get over it and move on. And just realize that this life is such a gift. I have been given so many opportunities to start over. And I just want to love myself and all that I've gone through. And we've all gone through so many things, right? Everybody here, you've gone through many challenges and many, many obstacles, and you've overcome them. And you probably don't give yourself enough credit for it, right? You're probably thinking about something you did wrong last week more than you're thinking about all the stuff that you're doing right. And it's so silly that we do that. But if we started to flip the way that we speak to ourselves, the world starts to mirror that. And I have really experienced some tremendous miracles through the shifting of my thoughts. And again, I give so much credit to having had lupus being the thing that showed me that my body was attacking itself, so that I could see that my mind was attacking itself. So it's kind of a gist of, well, not a gist. I really told you a lot there.
Julie, well, first of all, you're very eloquent.
Oh,
And you're really inspiring our audience. There's a lot of comments that have come in and a couple of questions, actually.
Oh.
So I'm going to say the comments, and then we've got a couple of questions for you from our audience.
right.
Desiree, in hearing you share this, shared with us that her daughter was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease at the age of 3 and has had hundreds of doctor appointments, therapy appointments, all between the ages of 3 and 5, just dealing with that. So that really touched her heart. Susan Bloomquist writes, "Thank you, Julie, for your sharing. This experience and your way of practice is inspiring." Eleanor Joy writes, "Quite an amazing and grueling journey." And your friend Dr. Kat says, "It's the power of love." Dorina Joy has a really fascinating comment. Dorina Joy's coming to us all the way from Ecuador.
Oh.
She writes, "Wow, what a synchronicity, Julie. I have also been living with lupus since I was 14 years old, triggered by nuclear radiation from Chernobyl. And I've been on a similar healing journey as you for 4 decades now. I've lost not only my hair, but almost my life several times. I even wrote a book called Healing Lupus. with hundreds of different modalities that can help manage the many symptoms of it and other autoimmune diseases and syndromes.
Amazing.
I'm so grateful to hear your story. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you
So
so
there's
much.
an interesting synchronicity.
Yeah, that's
Um,
incredible.
it really is, isn't it? And then the question that we have is, oh, well, and Dr. Laura writes, okay, Julie, you have an amazing healing story. All honor to you for continuing to follow your positive healing intuitions. Here's a question. Did you have any heavy metal or mold toxins or parasites?
Yes, I that was actually when I first found out that that my kidneys were failing, I had been living in a home that had black mold that I was not told about. So it has been a journey of detoxing. And it is an interesting place I'm in now because when my kidneys started to fail, and I would love if anybody has some tips on this, Kat, I'm sure you will talk to me about this afterwards. I'm in a bit of an interesting place because once I had the kidney transplant, now I'm on anti-rejection meds. And so you have to be really cautious on cleanses and anything that can interfere with those medications. So I'm trying to figure out a fine line of, I'm trying to test out some zeolites right now with pulling all those out and trying to figure out a good time in the morning when I take my anti-rejection meds and at night when I take them, and when I can sneak them in the middle that don't affect that. So it's a lot of figuring things out. I'm really realizing that sweating is going to be a really great tool for me. But I have really realized that parasites, molds, and toxins. I also very strongly believe that it was a particular vaccine with aluminum that was a trigger for the lupus to begin with. So it's a lot of detox and those kind of triggers.
Kath from our Zoom room audience is asking, did you change your diet?
Yes. That was one of the very first things that I worked on, was working on cleaning up my diet, getting rid of more processed foods. And luckily, Kat is in my life, so she's really good reminders for those. And actually, I didn't really think that gluten was as triggering for me as other people, but I didn't have anything that showed up. I didn't have like the belly that showed or the other symptoms, but it was after a little stint where I was having some extra hospital stays, and I finally kicked the gluten and labs got so much better. So it was happening internally, and it did make a big difference. And organic, crucial. Blessing your food, crucial. Good, clean water, crucial. I go places and people get so annoyed, weirded out, because they'll say like, oh, we've got Hetchy water, or this is super good spring water. Why do you need to get these special bottles of water to bring to our house? And they're not thinking about the faucet or any of the water that's coming through their old pipes. All of that stuff makes a really big difference. So all of it makes a difference. And I have really noticed tremendous shifts in my life from those kinds of things. But yeah, Kat's been a big help with those.
Well, I can tell you just briefly, because I know there's other people that have autoimmune conditions here. There's really three things that have to happen in order for autoimmune to express. One is a trigger. So one is a predisposition. Okay. The other is a trigger. So it's your diet, stress, and toxins. And the other is a leaky gut.
Yeah, and probiotics.
Yeah, a leaky gut. So if you don't, so we can't do anything about the genetic predisposition, but we can do things about the other two. And so all three of them have to be present in order for autoimmune to express. And so if you can remove the trigger and heal the gut, or just remove the trigger and maybe the gut will heal, then it won't express. And that's not something that conventionally trained doctors know. So you might need to look at alternative methods in order to help heal the gut and remove the trigger, figure out what the trigger is. And it's usually not just one trigger. Okay, it's usually a combination of stress, toxins, lack of nutrients, and dental issues are a big one. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Kat.
So I want Julie to tell everybody what she named her kidneys.
Oh, my kidney is named Angel. Angel has been a big blessing, and I tell Angel every day how much I love. I mean, it's from a male, so I say I love him, but just always that I want Angel to know how much I appreciate him and how much I want him, and that we've got a mission. So, got a mission. Thanks,
Dr. Laura is asking 2 more questions, then we got to move on, but she wants to know if you've been getting colonics, and also just doing active breathing and sweating for detox.
Yeah, colonics I have not done in a while, but the breathing, yes. Breathing and then sweating, yeah, big part of my daily regime, not regime, I keep saying the wrong word, regimen.
Well, so many people are sending beautiful messages. Dia Therese writes, Julie, dear beautiful woman, you speak directly to my mind and my heart. Susan writes, your honesty is so real and your message resonates.
Thank you.
And a lot of people commented about water and Dr. Emoto's work.
Yeah.
So, please put into the chat box how people can find you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I think people are going to want to follow your story. And there's a documentary that was made about you. So she's going to put into the chat box the link to her documentary, which I'm sure many of you would like to watch the entire thing. And also the link to her Instagram. And I know I'm going to follow you.
Oh, yes.
And Dr. Kat, thank you so much for introducing Julie to us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you to Jeffrey Colebrook. In the beginning, there was Jeffrey, and Jeffrey begat Kat, and Kat begat Julie. And it's your turn, Julie, to share somebody with us.
Oh, yes, for sure. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, we are a community, that's for sure. And I love the way we flow together, in and out and around. So, and it keeps growing and growing with the love that we all share with each other. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, we are going to move on to kind of the main part of the show, although my gosh, it's hard to follow Julie. What a wonderful presenter, very eloquent and such an inspirational message. But it is my pleasure to bring up, also from Nevada City, Michael Joseph, and also from Nevada City, Phil Mederi. And these 2 guys are the co-founders of a really important organization. And we're going to be learning all about it tonight. I'm looking forward to learning from them because they have an understanding about contracts and finances that are really important. Their organization is called the Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship. I'm going to put the website into the chat box, but I'm going to read to you actually. And for those of you watching on Facebook or YouTube, the website is Sacred, HONOREF, or you could say sacredhonoref.com. And I really like this invitation. In a world of invisible contracts, where natural rights seem dishonored, there comes a time when spirit calls us forward to walk a path of self-determination, to honor and uphold that which perpetuates and protects life. And spirit has come through Phil and Michael. So, any of you out in our audience, do you find yourself asking yourself these questions? How can I protect my rights and stand in my power within, or better yet, even outside of the public system? Can I do this lawfully? How does the government and public systems limit my freedoms, and what alternatives exist? What is the difference between conducting my affairs in the public versus private? How can I protect my family and my assets from regulatory overreach or unnecessary exposure? And finally, is it possible to live in alignment with natural law while navigating our modern systems? Well, those are the questions that Phil and Michael are here to answer us tonight. So thank you very much, gentlemen, and welcome to the Awakening World.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Great introduction.
Yeah.
I just have to comment. Thanks for playing Cornflower, by the way. I haven't seen Cornflower in years. He's just amazing. Love that guy.
He was on the show a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, was he?
And so when I, was looking for what I said, yeah, people really love Cornflower. So that's where I found that older video from him. But he's doing great. He moved back to North Carolina, I believe it is, to take care of his mother. But he's doing well, and so is she.
Yeah, seen him around.
Small world.
Yeah, indeed. And wowza, so aptly named, I have to say.
Yeah, wowza, I want to know all your secrets. All right.
Yeah. We have a lot to share. Well, Scott, thanks for the introduction. Just more specifically, in the Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship, really what we share with people is self-governance. Just speaking from a constitutional aspect, the original Constitution was designed to limit the legislative powers of government so that people could remain in self-governance. So what that means is that we can govern our lives in a private instance without needing the government for any form of interference. So we teach people the distinction between what that public system is, which we'll talk about, and what private really is. And within the Foundation for Self-Governance, which is part of the fellowship, it's the kind of the core courses that we share with people so they can learn how to self-govern themselves. We have what's called National Status Passport, Trifecta, Aloydale Land, and Equity. And Phil is the director of the equity portion of this Foundation for Self-Governance. I'm the founder and of the founding director of the Sacred Honor and the director of the Trifecta and the Aloydale Land Pathways. So there's a big group of us within this fellowship that are many, 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 many years learned in law. And we've come together under divine providence to put together the Sacred Honor and the Foundation for Self-Governance so we can bring it to the world and share it with people. So, like a lot of you on this call, your heart's driven towards finding our way back to our truth, to being people in community again, being people on the land, finding our way back to things that are natural, right? So a lot of what you're sharing, Julie, is about finding your way back to self-reliance, right? And you realized how powerful you are within yourself, and then everything around you falls into accord, right? So it's not unsimilar to what we share, and we come from the spiritual lens of law. So Phil, I don't know if you want to say a couple of words, and then we could break down a couple of things to create some distinctions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very much a divine spiritual journey to move back into alignment and embodiment with the divine providence of the creator or equity, for instance, is even called one of the synonyms for equity in the legal dictionary is spirit of the law. So there's this other layer to the justice system or natural justice, or even the way we deal with each other in fairness and justness. So that's the layer we're getting back to, just like just like the name of this podcast about the awakening. This is the awakening of the justice, the natural justice that exists in the system. And so this process of building this new awakening, this new parallel paradigm shift that we're going through, well, we need to bring natural justice back into the equation, because that's what things are built on. It's the foundation, the bedrock. So all of the natural food, the natural medicine, then even healing with manifestation, as Julie was speaking to. This is all holistic. And so this is just a different facet, a different layer to this movement that we're all partaking in. So that's what we're here to speak to you about today, is how to become in alignment with that spirit, the spirit of the law, the divine connection. And it's exciting stuff. And you know, just to share a little bit on my journey, it's been as much of a spiritual journey of awakening inside as it has been dealing in the system outside, because everything that we do starts here. And so when we master our embodiment of our own spirit and our own connection to spirit, then that can transcend to all of our dealings outside.
So one of the things that brought me into wanting to develop the Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship is just witnessing that the world, there's just a disconnect between how people lead their lives and how there's this seemingly oppressive sort of system, or we'll call it a governing body or whatever is controlling that system, seems to be working on this bizarrely oppressive fashion. So because you look at the way people live in the world, the way that our education system has been circumvented. If you look at the history of the education system, just in the United States, most people realize that the Rockefellers created the education system and things changed drastically after the Industrial Revolution, right? So we start looking at those kinds of things and we start realizing that we had been moved in a direction by somebody else's intentions, right? And then you start looking at the deeper side of things and you realize, well, what was the original intention of the organic constitution? I know there's a lot of debate about that. But if you just look at the lawful element of it, it was really designed to keep this oppressive potential, this governing body, which at the time was the crown, from interfering with their natural ability to live naturally and to be people amongst people. There was always something that was oppressing them, so that's where the revolution came from. And then there was this brilliant trust that was developed called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which is actually quite exquisite if you take it for a body of work of principles and apply it to your lives. It's beautiful. So what happened to it? And these are the questions I started asking myself. What has happened? How have people been put into a position to where, you know, their properties are being so overly taxed that they're losing their houses. They're losing their properties that they've had in their family for 75 years because they can't pay a $2,000 tax bill. They lose their family legacy. Like, how does that happen? How are these taxes and all these other embedded elements that like tax away the vast majority of what we work so hard for? It doesn't, like, all these questions came to me. And how is it that a governing system can tell somebody's family business that they can stay open or closed? Like during COVID, that happened a lot. A lot of businesses, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses got closed down because the county said, you guys are not essential. Well, who says somebody's essential or not? Who gave you authority to tell me whether my family business has the right to open or close? Right? So when you dig into those questions, you start realizing that all of this is built on what we call commerce and contracts. So the system isn't what we think it is. So we just spent years, and by no means are we alone. There's a lot of people that have been going down this rabbit hole for a long time, and I definitely stand on the shoulders of some amazing giants and legends that have been unpacking this for the past 40 and 50 years. So bless their beautiful, courageous souls for bringing this information forward. So we can spend a couple of minutes kind of unpacking a little bit of the history, and then just talk about the solutions that we bring forward. That seems to be a phenomenal swell that's going on, not just in the United States, but all around the world. People are really starting to awaken to a lot of the information that we share. So You want to share a little bit, Phil, and then I was going to go back and kind of talk about the 14th Amendment and kind of break down some historical stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's a program in the system to essentially siphon off our productivity and our creativity. And it's the largest Ponzi scheme that's ever been created. And we're going to talk more about how that happened in a minute. However, there's a sense of, overwhelm in a lot of us when we start to talk about the law and legal. You hear the word legal get thrown around, and legal is a contract. I'm sure you can relate that everything you have to click a checkbox for term and conditions, or there has to be a contract or a signature that accompanies that. And what's really being shrouded here is that we are the only ones, the living, breathing, sentient moral beings that live in the image of the divine, are the only ones that can create productivity in this system. We're the only ones that can create value. And so when that's been encapsulated by some man-made system, and I want to say for a second, just to draw more parallels, there's two systems to choose from. We can live under the divine, which is that created all that we are and everything around us, and entrusted it to us to caretake this system, this world, the forests, the trees, the rivers, all of it was entrusted to us to be the stewards of that. And so we have that system where we're living directly in the image of the divine. That's natural. And in the law, they call it private. So that applies to the living. Now we have this other man-made system that was hijacked in essence because the other system's a mere reflection of nature. It's a fictional system that's created by man and administered by man and government, and that system is an inverse. It's like the looking glass. It's an inverse perception of what nature is. But the more we can be convinced that fiction is the reality, that's where the inner work comes in. That's where the inner shift comes in. And we deal with this constantly. One of the biggest things to coming into self-awareness, self-responsibility, self-governance, self-awareness surrounding all this is to deprogram or declutter from what's been programmed in. And Michael alluded to the education system. Let's talk about the governmental man system. That equates to public, okay? Public and private, living and fictional. In the law books, they even call it the fiction of law. It's being told to us what exists in this. So that programming that most of us who went to the public education, we were programmed to have a limited set of options and also a perception on how things actually function, where some don't go to the public school. That's why there's private schools. That's why there's private jets and private clubs. And we're being told here where they sit inside of the system. It's even on the money. You can pull out a Federal Reserve note right now and look on the front. It says this is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Now, lawful falls under a private, and equity lives in the private, whereas legal, which is commerce and contracts, lives in the fiction. That's the only way the fiction can gain our consent and our participation in that system is through contracts and commerce. So with that, I'll pass it back to Michael.
Great. So I'm going to
and Michael, just a reminder, at some point, pick a moment when Ray Amana can join us and do a song.
Great. I know just the moment. Thank you for that. Okay, so I want to pull us back just a little bit. So what Phil was talking about is that the law is in the contract. So we're talking about commerce and contracts. And I want to create some distinctions. And some of this stuff, I see some of the comments in there. Some of you have been tracking these things for years. Bless you. That's amazing. Some of this will make a lot of sense to you. Some of this might leave some people head scratching, and that's great. It's a good place to be. So I want to talk about how the law is in the contract. So going a little bit deeper about that is if Phil and I decided we wanted to get into an agreement and we draft the agreement and even we put our own terminologies and our own definitions of words, well, that's considered the law. And that means that there's nothing outside of that that can make it wrong or illegitimate that contract. Not the courts, not my mom. Nobody can do that, because that's the agreement that two sentient, creative, divine beings put into creation, so long as I'm not infringing upon somebody else's natural rights. Okay? So let me give you an example of how definitions are so important, and it'll help start creating distinctions. So if you look at the Bill of Rights, it has language of people rights, natural, and the definitions are defined in what's called the Webster's Dictionary of 1828. And the definition of the word person or people, well, people is mostly spoken of. Person, I believe, is mentioned twice. The definition means a sentient living man or woman, the entire definition, not just part of it. Now you fast forward to the language of the 14th Amendment. The language there doesn't mention people at all. It says persons with benefits, privileges, and immunities. So if you look up the words that are defined in the 14th Amendment and the statutory system, which is called the Black's Law Dictionary, if you look up what a person is in the Black's Law, the super duper vast majority of it means a corporate entity, a vessel, a partnership, right? Have you guys ever heard of a corporate person? This might kind of ring a bell. So why is it important to know that? Because the 14th Amendment is actually a contract, where the Bill of Rights is a trust. So why did that happen? Because there was a movement going on at the time where I'm just going to minimize the deeper conspiratorial element of this and say that the world bankers had an agenda to obfuscate or take over the United States. And they did it very, very, very slowly, but they did it. And it started after the Revolutionary War, when Lincoln was killed, and then the Reconstruction period happened. Suddenly, all these massive things started taking place. And one of them was the 14th Amendment. So you fast forward to 1872, there was something that was put into action called the Organic Act. So the Organic Act of 1871 established the United States federal corporation inside the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. And that's the jurisdiction that it still has today, just the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. So how is it that the 10 square mile jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. has any authority and power in California or Missouri or Texas or Florida? Because what they did is they established a corporation, and then they established municipalities. So the republic, the California State Republic, Texas State Republic, Missouri State Republic, and on, they went from those natural states into municipalities as the state of California, the state of Missouri, the state of Texas. They're fictional municipalities that are owned by the corporate United States, and they're all contractually obligated. That's separate and different than the constitutional republics of each one of these particular states. It's a head scratcher, but that's actually what it is. It exists today. It hasn't changed since those timelines. So to understand what I was just sharing, you start getting there's suddenly a distinction between the United States Federal Corporation and United States of America, the Republic. So you can look up a code in the statutory system under definitions, and some of this can just be like deep stuff, but you can literally look it up. It's 28 USC 3002 subsection 15. And you scroll down to the definition and it says United States is a federal corporation. It doesn't say anything about United States of America, the Republic, because they're not the same. So what they did in a lot of very clever ways, I say they, that corporate body, they got us into their jurisdiction. Each contract is its own jurisdiction. So if Phil and I got into a contract, that's considered a lawful jurisdiction. They created a corporate entity, and they created all these contractual obligations to get us into their rules. And that happens with birth certificate, citizenship as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, driver's license, social security cards, on and on and on. You name it. There's endless amounts of contracts where we're accepting benefits from that corporate entity. Now it binds us into all their statutory rules. So that's the public system that Phil and I are talking about. And the distinction there is what is natural law. It's constitutional law. It's what we call the divine jurisdiction. And when we don't intertwine with that, we're actually acting naturally. Now, what we share with people is how you can build your life in that private side where you're not leaking away your wealth through all these different levels of unrepresented taxations and putting your life's legacy and hard work and wealth into a position where it can be confiscated, right? Really important to get this. So, but it doesn't mean that you cannot navigate your life in that public arena, or what I call public ledger. We just teach you how to do it with more power and more authority where you're not putting yourself in jeopardy. So those are like really super clear distinctions. I want to fast forward just a little bit to 1913. At this point, I'm sure pretty much everyone knows that the Federal Reserve is not a governing bank. It's a private trust that's owned by private families. They've never been audited because it's private affair and nobody can impede upon those contracts. So it doesn't get audited. Right? So that was part of the development of what we call the commerce and contract control mechanism that was put in place by the world bankers in simple form. So it started in the Reconstruction period with 14th Amendment. They ushered people in to that 14th Amendment contract. They established the corporate United States in 1872 in Washington, D.C., and then they installed the Federal Reserve in 1913, and then a whole lot of stuff happened in 1933. So I want to let Phil unpack this just for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to talk about some solutions in the Foundation for Self-Governance. But before that, Rhea can come in and sing a song. So Phil, just unpack some of the things that took place in 1933 with the Emergency Banking Act and the switcheroo with the gold and silver.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, there's nature on this side of the mirror, and on the other side of the mirror is fiction. So in order to animate the fiction, there's no substance there. There's no productivity. There's no life force. It needs to be brought over from the living, which are the only ones that can create. So in order to animate the system, it requires natural substance. Well, before 1933, the constitutional tender was gold and silver. And it said nothing shall be used as payment except for gold and silver. So in 1933, when the federal corporation went bankrupt, it was a golden opportunity to build the Ponzi scheme I'm speaking of. So what happened then is gold and silver, the use of gold and silver for the payment of debts was made against public policy. So they brought in something unconstitutional. There was no constitutional amendment. So what they brought in was the public credit system, or what it actually is a public debt system. There's no way to ever get out of it. The debt only piles up, and if you try to settle the debt, well, liquidity dries up and there's nothing to go around because it's all debt. So what happened? Who's the substance behind the public credit system? Well, it's the people, all the people of the nation. That's where the productivity is. So how can ones who need this to animate their system, they need to extract that value from the living over to the fictional side. So in essence, hey, Michael, you're the gold. I'm the gold. Scott, you're the gold. Julie, you're the gold. Kat, you're the gold. Wowza, you're definitely the gold. Okay. So we became the gold in the system. So we weren't told that in public school, though, were we? That we're actually the value in the system. But in all of these contracts and commerce, we're set up to be the debtor in the situation where there wouldn't even be the loan, in quotes, if you hadn't signed the application to create the energy to generate those credits. So, and I'm getting down a rabbit hole there. We can't go too far down that one. But what happened was equity as remedial justice, as natural justice. I say this a lot. How many of you have heard of common law before? I mean, if you've heard of common law, How many of you have heard of Admiralty Maritime before, or Admiralty? If you haven't, then look no further than the gold fringed flag in the classroom or in the courtroom. All right, that's telling you what jurisdiction you're in. It's the Commerce and Contracts Trade jurisdiction. And how many of you have heard of equity? Equity as far as a justice system, because those are the three that are available to us in the United States Constitution. And equity has been around a lot longer than that. It goes back into biblical times. It's at the root of the law of nations. It's the natural law that's in the system that comes before laws are written. It steps in when laws don't provide sufficient coverage for a remedy, and it'll be there after they're all gone because it's what's innate and what's natural in the dealings between living beings. And it exists fully in our justice system. It's an Article 3 jurisdiction. So equity always looks to provide a remedy, and the ones that design this corporate system know this. They don't want to be contrary to natural law either. They use it, they live by it, and so they wrote into this public policy our remedy in equity, which is called discharge. So there's no longer a way to pay for anything any longer. It's all charge and discharge. It's like a keto. There's a charge that comes at you, and you can redirect that back for discharge, as you are the true value in the system. And this is the switch that happens internally, is realizing who we really are, and realizing the power that we embody. And believe me, the system that's taking this life force I heard the other day that the Federal Reserve booked a $65 billion profit off of all the people of the nation last year. There's 50 private shareholders to that trust. So $65 billion, and it's probably even more than that. I mean, they get the accurate figures, but just to give you an idea, there's a few amount of people that are profiting off of everything. And how many bills do you have coming in your mailbox? How much stresses are involved in your day-to-day life trying to get through it and manage everything? This is a product of the system that's been put in front of us. But there's another way. We don't have to go fight in the system either. We can go to peace in ourselves, and we can just leave. And that's what we're here to talk about. Leaving and moving into private, building your affairs there. And you know what the law tells us? That we have the right to be left alone in the private, because we're not concerning that public system in our private affairs. And guess what? If they come knocking or try to concern themselves in our private affairs, it says in black and white, even in the Black's Law Dictionary, equity will interfere. Equity will stop that from happening. And it's remedial justice, natural justice, and ideal justice. Those are all synonyms. So this is a new concept, and most of you likely haven't heard of it before. But this is the way people are left alone. And as Michael's talking about the trust, building your trust and in the private, having the tool to settle any claims that come against your good name. That's what we're here speaking on, because if you're the value in the system, we have a power that we weren't made aware of, and that's what we're here to speak to today.
Yeah. So you want to just go ahead and let Rhea?
Yeah, I just want to.
Okay.
I'm going to read a couple comments from our audience.
And great comments.
Dia Therese writes, let's remember Foster and Kimberly Gamble's Thrive 1 and 2.
Yes, friends of
years
mine.
ago.
By the way.
And she writes also, Phil and Michael, you are great assets for all of us. So grateful to have you on the Global Peace Trail. Kath writes, there's so much to what you're talking about. This is very exciting. Diara writes, this goes right along with self-love. And many, many, many other comments, which maybe you can read, while Rhea Mana is blessing us with her musical offering. And so I'm delighted to have our dear friend, Rhea Mana, straight from the Shift Network. She had her Shift class tonight. So Shift class has been a great success, by the way. Congratulations, Rhea. Really proud of you.
Thank you so much, Scott. And this is a topic so dear to my heart, because here is my beloved Michael Joseph. So I am very intimately acquainted with the subject. And this song actually came out of my own inquiry. You know, Phil is so knowledgeable and articulate in his way of describing and pulling through divine wisdom and equity. The first time he explained it to me, he said, equity is the feminine and law is the masculine. And I was like, wow, that is so beautiful. That was just like a game changer in my life. And another thing that Phil had brought through is that, or maybe, you know, there's just such a good team together, Michael and Phil, that this notion of like, you know, we can only serve one master. And for those of us in the spiritual world, we realize that, you know, that's the truth of who we are. And so just evaluating in our lives how we can better serve that one master that is our divine selves. And so an aspect of this work that they bring through is how to really navigate our lives in the private. And the fundamental principle of that is something called the Declaration of Self-Knowingness. And that is really how we come back to ourselves as spiritual divine beings. We have the breath of life through us. We are imbued by the power of Creator. So therefore, everything in our life is our ministry. So, you know, being protected in the private, there's a clear separation of church and state. And so when we recognize that we are living in God's kingdom, we are God's children, of course we're living in the private. Of course this is a whole different orientation. And then if all of our life is our ministry, of course Spirit is happy, is thrilled to support us in our ministry. So it also can help rewire the brain in some aspects of scarcity. And so this song that I wrote is, you know, for me and the work that I do, singing to the earth and connecting with ourselves as divine beings, like I felt like there was an intersection of this work where it's this recognition of the restoration of ourselves as a divine temple, and then our voice is an outcropping of that. We used to have the power to speak the word into existence, and the work that I do is helping people reconnect and re-empower that aspect of creation. And so this declaration of knowingness is like this fundamental piece. It's like, you know, who we really are. So I'm going to sing this song called My Body is a Church. And speaking to this concept of self-knowingness. Who are we truly? And then we're not fighting against any system. Then we're just living inspired from within. Hopefully you can hear me okay. It's okay?
Very good.
All right. My body is a church, my heart the living altar. Actually, I need to open this instead, sorry. The forest is my temple, the mountains are my oracle. My body is a gift, adorned with sacred pathways, like the trails that lead to fertile fields and flowing waterways. My body is a church, holy and miraculous, as is the world around me. The waters are my sacrament, the ground beneath my feet is as hallowed as it gets. All creation singing praises to life immaculate. Beautiful, oh beautiful, this blessed life I call my own. Beautiful, oh beautiful, this holy ground I stand upon. My body is a church, the place I go to worship. The forest is my temple, my heart is how I connect. On my head a starry crown, my feet upon the kingdom, my left hand filled with mercy, my right hand wields the discipline. My body is a church, my soul ordained by the Most High, in service to the intelligence of the great architect of life. Oh, love pours through the fabric of all of space and time, and we hold the magic that makes the world
Wow.
What a beautiful, passionate introduction of your appreciation of your beloved Michael and of Phil. And then what a perfect song. Absolutely beautiful, Rhea.
Thank you so much. And so much of what like Phil speaks to in equity is the importance of knowing who you are and standing on your square. And like, you know, it's so much about intention, where we come from with what we do. And for me, in terms of anchoring New Earth energy, it's about knowing who we are, knowing where we come from, and so that all of our actions are inspired out of that original divine cause. And so, you know, then we have a different system, we have a different world when we come from that inner place. So I'm honored to share that song in the context of this beautiful work these gentlemen do.
Oh,
Amazing. And I want people to know about Rhea's website. It's her name, Rhea Manna, REYAMANNA.com. And that's where you can learn all about her classes. She even is offering a free gift. So make sure you put in your name and email address, which I've done multiple times because she's been on.
You have a lot of gifts, Scott.
I have a lot of gifts. Well, the gift is you being on the show. And she's going to close the show out tonight with a final song. So we'll see a little bit more of Rhea Manna at the end of the show. And thank you so much, my dear.
Thank you.
Guys, so you get a chance to see the questions that have come to you in the chat box.
Yeah, I'm tracking some of those, and I'd like to take a couple of minutes to talk about the Foundation for Self-Governance and as the solution, so some of you can lean into it if you're inspired. And then we'll get into some questions. I want to leave maybe a good 10, 12 minutes for questions or something like that before Rhea comes back in. I think that's
perfect.
Is that reasonable? Okay, cool. So before I get down that rabbit hole of Foundation for Self-Governance, I wanted to share with you that you can go to our main membership site. We call ourselves a fellowship. Some people call us Sacred Honor, but it's sacredhonoref.com. Yeah, sacredhonoref.com. You can spell out Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship.com if you want, but we just abbreviated the E and the F. So sacredhonoref.com. You can become a general member. It doesn't cost anything. It's complimentary. And when you come in, there's a really, really brilliant documentary. I call it an edumentary called Breaking the Spell. It's an hour and 4 minutes. And it is a really brilliant breakdown of a lot of the things that Phil and I are talking about, obviously in much more detail with a lot of the references that are necessary for people, and we encourage people to do their own homework and track some of these things. And then from there, you can join any one of the pathways or any one of the membership orientations if you want to go deeper into your learning. So I wanted to share that, sacredhonoref.com. Yeah, so there you go. So Scott is going through. It's very, very simple to join, but it is a membership. So basically, as a membership, we exercise life in the private. So when you join it, you're basically showing that you're coming in consensually as a living, sentient man or woman. You're not coming in clothed in office. You're not coming in as a corporate person. You're not coming in as any form of agency. You're coming into a private setting. And within that private setting, we get to share with you all the things that we don't share in the public arena, because the public arena is not ours. We didn't create it. And I'm not interested in disturbing it. I'm just interested in helping people empower themselves and learning the distinctions between the two and building their life in the private. It's peaceable, non-controversial, and enormously effective. So the Foundation for Self-Governance, again, comprised of 4 primary pathways. Again, it's National Status Passport, Trifecta, Aloydel Land, and Equity. And I'm going to review them very, very, very briefly. And then we're going to open it up to some Q&A. And by the way, great comments in the chat, and I'm excited to answer some of those questions. So, National Status Passport, in brief, what it does is it's a very simple process to change your political status. It's that simple. So what you're doing is you're changing your political status with that corporate entity, and it's a way to use an affidavit, which is the highest truth of law, letting the U.S. Secretary of State know that you know the distinction between that corporate entity and your natural state self. Okay, so what happens is you go from becoming a U.S. citizen to a national. So a national is the pre-Civil War terminology for a state citizen. Okay, and it's a little bit hard to wrap the mind around without going into some further like history and some further education, but the simplicity is you're no longer relegated into the statutes and the laws of that corporate entity so long as you don't harm somebody else, right? Natural law states that there's not a crime unless somebody was injured, which means their property was injured or there was bodily injury, there was some kind of unalienable right that was affected. Okay? So that's natural common law. Everything else is statutory. If you get some kind of a ticket or something, well, you haven't hurt anybody. That's a commercial instrument. You're being issued a charge from a commercial instrument, and you can accept it or not accept it. But that's a whole nother discussion. In equity, you accept everything as the power, which Phil will talk about a little bit more. So in simple, what are the benefits of it? Well, if you're not in the corporate state and you're natural, then you understand that distinction between what is voluntary in regards to taxation. So you're not considered a taxable entity in that corporate system any longer as an individual, as a living sentient man or woman. Okay, it's important to get. Taxes are truly voluntary when you do the homework and see it. Okay, so, and the other thing is, somebody like myself, like I no longer have a driver's license. I use the National Status Passport card. I travel all over the world. I just got back from Europe a few weeks ago. I travel in my what I call my conveyance or my automobile privately. I'm not in any kind of commercial capacity. So when you know that distinction, then you can travel privately without encumbrances on common roads. You don't actually need a driver's license to travel privately, believe it or not. So there's a lot of great benefits from changing your political status. There's a lot in there, and you can learn about it in the National Status Passport pathway. Then there's Trifecta. So Trifecta has always been the heart of the fellowship. And what it is, it's the aspect of how you're building your life in that private ledger and you're protecting your legacy wealth through the divine jurisdiction of your temple or your church or your ministry or your synagogue or your sanctuary, whatever it is that you want to call it. It's your creation because you're the creator. right? So you create this entity out of your divine truth. And then that entity opens up a trust. Now that trust is an integration of that divine jurisdiction and has all those protections of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, right? Separation of church and state. You're navigating in the private. You learn this. And then you learn how the trustee of these trusts are the gatekeeper between the public and the private. And you start learning how to navigate public affairs. You might have LLCs, whatever's going on in the public. If you need licenses for certain things, as a doctor, if you're prescribing things that are patented products and they're very highly regulated, sometimes it makes sense to have an LLC or a public entity. And you learn how to migrate those funds back into the private where they're not affected by regulations. Private trusts don't have any requirement to report to the state. They don't have any requirement to report assets or growth or loss, right? A lot of power in this. And you learn how to protect your life legacy by being the power and authority of your private entities. A lot to learn there. And then there's what's called private membership associations, or what we call unincorporated associations, which are a more popular term these days, where you can build private clubs. The Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship is a private club. That is an integration of the church, which is part of the entity of the trust. The trust is the fiduciary of all the affairs in the public and some in the private, and some in the public. And then we navigate our memberships and all of our associations and how we navigate the work we bring to the world through our private association of the Sacred Honor Educational Fellowship. And you can learn to do the same things. There's a lot of great things to learn how you build your life in the private and still navigate life in the public as needed, but with a lot more power. So that's called the trifecta: the church, trust, private club, integrations. It's powerful, truly powerful. And then there's a Lloyd-O land. So in simple, a Lloyd-O land, what's built in a Lloyd-O land is basically being a true freeholder on your own land and property. So in the Constitution, treaties are the highest law of the land because it's a contract, okay? And the Paris Peace Treaty, which was what ended the Revolutionary War, these land patents were created and put into place prior to the ratification of the Constitution. So if you look back at the laws historically, and we show all this, we share all this with you as you're learning, how you can pull forth a land patent where a land patent is designed to not be in the commercial side of things. It's designed to be in the private, and it holds what's called superior title to the commercial deeds, superior title to real estate. It holds superior title, which means it's not an entity that can be, it's not a piece or a piece of private property that can be taxed or confiscated. And when you establish it the proper way, which we teach you how to pull forth that historic land patent that's lying dormant, and the way that you bring it forth and exercise that authority, then you now are holding your land that's not taxable. It can't be confiscated from the state, the county, or the feds. And the county doesn't have any power to come on your land and tell you what to do, when to do, and how to do it, so long as you're honorable and you're not encumbering upon somebody else's actual natural rights. So there's a lot to learn in this. There's distinctions that are important. And then there's equity. And equity is what I call the great equalizer. So when you're in your process of building your life in the private ledger, you might still have some public affairs that need to be settled. So equity is what I like to say is you put on your bookkeeping hat and you step into the public arena and you settle and close those matters with discharge, and you clean your hands, and then peaceably and non-controversially, you'll come back into the private. So if there's unresolved taxes, if there's whatever is considered a public debt, you can settle and close that matter in full discharge where all parties are left whole. It's not a hack. It's not a trick. It's 100% law. I's dotted, T's crossed. So Equity is a great instrument to clean up your affairs while you're building your life in your private. As you become more sophisticated, then you learn how to navigate events to where you don't necessarily need to express equity in the discharge fashion. You just use it when you absolutely need to. You put on your bookkeeping hat, you go into the public arena, you settle and close the matter, and you come back into the private. So those are the four pathways, the foundation for self-governance. And these are these essential tools for people to learn how to build their life in the private again, to really protect their legacy wealth. And you don't have to be wealthy or rich to start it. You can open a trust and establish a trust with a grain of salt and build your legacy wealth over time that you can pass on with good succession plans. You can pass on your family, your children, your grandchildren, your future children, however it is that you want to design it. But you learn all these things in the Sacred Honor Education Fellowship. A lot to unpack here. And Phil, I don't know if you want to share any more about equity or just kind of wrap it up very briefly, and then we can answer some questions.
Yes, I want. Thank you for that, Michael. I want to comment, touch on something that Rhea talked about, how equity is the spirit of the law. That what I remember, I'll recite what I told her the first time that I met her, actually, and I was talking about this, that equity is the spirit of the law, and reason is the soul of the law. So those are two components, and when they dance, you get the perfect marriage of masculine and feminine in the justice system. So reason aligned with equity is the highest form, and they actually call it a ray of white light, and it's in the law books. So that's when we combine those two, and that's the masculine and feminine balance in the justice system, because equity is about fairness, justness, about bringing fair dealings in between all human beings, and it's an energy field. It's an embodiment. This isn't. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of people, sending out pieces of paper and doing this and that. It goes deeper than that. What we're speaking on is an embodiment on a soul level. This is about aligning with this energy field, and it truly is an energy field. And so this is where the deeper spiritual work comes into play with all of this as well. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I love that you brought that up. And when you express equity, you're standing in that ray of white light, and then there's also practical application behind it. But at first and foremost, it's the principles and the inner work that brings you into that state.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil, for wrapping that up. So much more to share. I definitely encourage you guys, if you're remotely sparked in this at all, if you're inspired, if you're scratching your head, wonderful. You can just go to sacredhonoref.com, watch Breaking the Spell. It'll probably, I'd imagine, help out a great deal. Some people watch it several times to be able to take it in, but it's there for you to lean into if you desire. And there is a massive swell of people, hundreds of millions, I'm quite certain, across the world that are starting to wake up to what a lot of what Phil and I are sharing. And the world is shifting. There's a great awakening happening. Undoubtedly, it's happening. And what we share is non-controversial. It's peaceable. We're not into lawfare and arguing or trying to make anybody wrong. That system is its system. And we can't find our way to salvation through the lens of being a victim. So if we can find ourselves in that centerpiece, then the world will shift much, much faster. So that is our message. A lot more to share, but this is what we're able to kind of bring forward tonight as best we could.
A couple of quick questions. Does this work in Canada and other countries as well, or is this United States only?
Yeah, that's a super great question. Trust law is recognized internationally through the Hague Convention of 1984-85. So yes, the trifecta is recognized all over the world. Status is very much restricted to the United States, even though it has its own application across the world. We just haven't been able to study all those yet. Allodial land is specifically in the United States, even though there's similar treaties around the world, and we're studying those and bringing them forward. Equity, by all means, is expressed throughout the world. And Phil, you might want to share on that just briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. So equity, if you look at the any common law system or civil law system, Napoleonic law, it's also called, all of it has the same roots of origin, and you can find equity at the bedrock of either of those systems, which makes up about 150 nations worldwide. And beyond that, this is natural law, as I mentioned, the law of nations, which regulates all the dealings of all the nations in the world, is founded on natural justice as well. And the equity remedy that we specifically use is applicable in any nation that's a member of the IMF or using any kind of the commercial law. And it's because they all have to agree to certain things to trade together. And so this is right in the thick of it, and it works all over. It's universal, even though slight nuances may alter. The spirit of the law is everywhere.
Wow.
Quick,
Okay.
quick.
And another question. So you've got the alternative to a driver's license. What happens if you're pulled over by the highway patrol?
In simple form, when you go through the process properly, then what is issued in the record based on the card you have, this is your new political status, it has a do not detain code in the system. So in simple form, you just give them, and we have hundreds of videos of members that show this, where they're in a car and they get pulled over and they turn the camera on, and they go, oh, it's my first time, I'm a little nervous. And they give them the passport card. And just a moment or two later, they come back and they say, everything's fine. And then they drive off.
Wow.
We had one member last year say, I got pulled over 5 times and I drove away without a ticket or any harassment, without a driver's license.
Wow. Wow. Okay. A lot of people are appreciating you very, very much. So I'm just trying to see if there's any other major questions. What about GESARA and NESARA? Is that something you can briefly talk about?
I'm so glad that you guys are familiar with that. I'm gonna let Phil speak on that for a minute, and I might offer my thoughts on it, maybe on the tail end, not to take too much.
Well, I want to take a couple questions and put them together because there's digital currencies been brought up and things like that. Well, if it's no matter what the window dressing or the medium of exchange is, it's what it's based on fundamentally. And when it comes down to it, there has to be substance backing whatever's being used. And so, if the substance shifts, the great thing about equity is it's malleable, and it's concurrent. It's called concurrent equity, where it provides remedy no matter what happens in the system. Because if an inequity is created, as Michael mentioned, this is the great equalizer in the scales. We've all seen Lady Justice withholding the scales. Well, equity is there to equalize and to balance, and it doesn't mean anybody loses out. So I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of speaking of those two per se. I just want to share that's the fundamental aspect of the system, because there's a lot of talk of different things going on. But that's also where the trifecta comes in, because if you have to manage your affairs in some kind of public digital situation, you can do it through entities and navigate it in a different way with a mindful approach. So we're, until something happens, it's speculation. So we deal in what the reality of the situation, and until something changes, that's where we're at.
Yeah, so I don't lean into NESARA and GESARA. I don't personally, because the way that we lead our lives, it's not something that we necessarily need to lean onto. And I'd rather be self-reliant than to think that something outside of us is going to be our savior. Really, I think that's a big lesson for all of us. Is for so long we've relied upon leaders and politicians and presidents and all these outside entities from us to be our saviors, when the truth of the matter is it's the people. And I don't really necessarily trust NESARA and GESARA. I'm not saying they are or aren't. I just don't trust it, because what we exercise actually works and functions. And I happen to know that behind the scenes, there's new bank structures being put into place that are not part of the Federal Reserve banking system. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that don't necessarily have to do with NESARA and GESARA, and maybe somehow they are. I'm not sure. But that's the best I can answer in just a quick blurred.
And the piggyback on that, that's why we're speaking to you today, is to encourage self-governance, because unless we're ready to self-govern, unless each one of us fully embraces this and embodies it, there's going to be some other ruler out there to, if you can't self-govern, you're going to be governed by somebody. And that's because if you're not ready to embrace that divine authority, then there's going to be a middleman in there, someone else to administer your affairs because you're not ready to. And so that's why we're here to encourage this inside of each one of us. That's the real reason.
So there, somebody's mentioning digital ID, the real ID. You don't need a digital ID as it's coming forward. You don't need the real ID. I'm living proof. I don't have one. I've traveled all over the world. You don't need it. I opt out of those eye scans and those big scanning machines every single time I'm going through airports. I don't care where I am in the world. I opt out, and I don't have any issues. So it's just a matter of knowing the truth and standing in your authority without being belligerent. You don't have to be mad about it or argue. You just stand in your truth.
And I want to bring up the IRS thing about voluntary taxing system. Well, to touch on what Michael has said, everything's either voluntary or mandatory. And in order for it to be mandatory, you've had to consent to it in some way, whether that be implied or expressed, which means it can be by your conduct, whether or not you consent to it. And so when we understand that we have the power of our consent and when what we enter into and what we choose to volunteer into, because that's the distinction there is, in essence, everything is voluntary unless you injure someone or their rights, their personal body, their property, or their rights. Everything else under natural law is voluntary. So what we teach is discretion and being able to navigate that system to be able to have your consent be in alignment with your intent and your mind, body, and spirit. And when you have that dialed in, you start to realize that, just as Michael's saying, all these things we think we don't have a choice concerning. Well, if there's no contract involved, it's all voluntary. So it's up to you. It's up to our will is everything, and our intent is very, very important.
Yes, indeed. Great questions. Any more? Bring forward.
I think the last one I'll ask, and you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for what you're doing. A question from Dr. Laura. Is secession of the states the way out for the masses and the way to allow the federal system to decay more quickly?
I love that question. Great question. Well, for one, so as I was saying earlier, I was talking about the corporate United States and its municipalities. So the municipalities are all part of the contractual obligation of that corporate United States, which is only housed in the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. It's hard to grok that. The republics still exist today. They don't need to secede from a corporate entity because they're already separate. So all we're doing is sharing with people how you can bow out of that system and be people of the soil, be Americans again, people of the soil, all of us, the whole rainbow tribe of everyone, right? So there is no succession that needs to happen.
And the fastest way to have whatever construct is in front of us today is by stop participating. It's just like boycotting any business you don't agree with.
Yep.
If we don't put our energy there and we focus it on building private communities, focus it on our local communities, and focus our energy in those areas, then it'll naturally just take all the energy away from that other entity. And that's the most effective way and peaceful way. We're not revolutionaries, we're evolutionaries. And it's funny when evolution brings us back to where we came from. So we just need, so that's really what this is about. We don't need to change anything except for what's in ourselves. Each one of us has a choice, but it has to come from here. And that's why we're here talking to you today, because that's the answer to that riddle.
Yeah, so we don't rebel, we're not revolutionaries, we don't protest, we're not asking them to make any changes in that system. We're just pulling our power back out of that system. And eventually, because I'm not interested in the wars that they create and the wars that they fund and all the genocides and all the stuff that's going on that none of us really agree with, really, if you get to the heart of the matter. But the way that we're taking back our power is by not participating in the ways that they want us to participate. And it's effective.
Beautiful, you guys. Absolutely beautiful. I'm going to go to gallery view. Let's all send big love and twinkles and appreciation. A lot of our people have signed up. I know I'm going to sign up. Well, I already have signed up, but I'm going to watch the video and I want to take the next steps. God bless you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
And I'm going to bring up Julie too for one more moment, because Julie, you certainly were a wonderful source of inspiration
Thank
as
you
well.
so much.
So kind of interesting how it all came together. So thank you.
Yeah, you guys were great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you for sharing. Just powerful.
Yeah.
We are going to go to Rayamana in a moment, but we still do prayer. That's one of the things we've started doing on the show, is having a prayer every show. And so I'm going to bring Desiree and DR up. And I want to just start off by asking everybody, there's DR, to hold a little special focus for one of our beloved presenters who's been on the show a lot. Anasuya is going through some significant health challenges. She sent an email today to some of us asking us to put her into our prayers. So as we're doing other prayer tonight, I just want to acknowledge our beloved Anasuya, who we love very much on this show. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the dynamic duo.
Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate that. And thank you to all the presenters tonight. I love the message of just self-love, self-empowering, and the healing that brings each and every single one of us. So bringing in that healing for those that we love, I just ask you to take a nice big breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Bringing in that self-love as well so that we can do that healing within us. Feeling that divine light just flow down our entire being, filling us with that self-love. In any healing that we need at this time. Speaking love into our bodies.
So beautiful, so beautiful. And just as we claim self-love, we also do claim that sovereignty, that divine authority over self. As evolutionary leaders, we redefine the social contracts. We redefine the social agreements. We step out of conformity and go in peace as we change the world from the inside out. And we bless all those who are struggling, who are caught in between the systems, in between the worlds. We pray for the health of the bodies of ourselves and those that we love. And we know that abundance is here in all form. And we give great thanks for the brave ones here speaking the truth, stepping out, showing and guiding the way.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you very, very much. I always like to let people know what's coming up on Saturday. Our show is going to be focusing on birthing a new world. And all of our presenters are part of the new generation of leaders of an awakening world. And Tatiana will be our guest musical artist. And that's going to be this Saturday night, Birthing a New World. And then Omoshar will be back next Wednesday. And that's going to be a really cool show. On Wednesday's show, we are going to be learning all about the Pleiades and Arcturus. We've got Vivian Chauvet coming back, our Arcturian hybrid. Eden will be co-hosting. Omoshoro will be back for music. And Marguerite Rigoglioso will be talking about the Pleiades. So we'll be learning about these two star systems and how our galactic family are coming around to support us. So that's what we've got coming up on the show. And to conclude tonight, I am really grateful that Rayamana, how perfect that she's with us on the same night that her beloved Michael was presenting. So, and it looks like we might get a duet, as a matter of fact, as I look. Isn't that something? There we
There's a
go.
scene change.
See, you're both wearing similar jackets.
Same clothes, different scene.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm not fully warmed up. We're just gonna go for it.
All right.
And so we have a music project together. It's called Song of Songs, and we write devotional music. And it's so much of the work Michael brings forward is to help people understand what they're contracting into and operate in the private, but underlying it is this deep spiritual principle of gnosis, of knowing self. And for me, our life as a human being is really a path of the mysteries. When we can recognize that we're here for a greater purpose and understand how to use our lives, we're born into this life so that we can be born again. We can have a second birth. And that is the awakened life. That's in our full awareness of the truth of who we are and how to anchor in our God consciousness capabilities. And in many religions, Christianity, let's say, there's this idea that there is this one person that could do all these things. But yet Jesus even said, all I shall do, you too shall do, and even greater. So this song we wrote is called Miracle. And it speaks to that notion that we are here, divine beings. And, the work that Phil and Michael are doing are to help us unencumber. It's the same with a true spiritual teacher or a breathwork practice. It's designed to purify, to unencumber us so that we can be in our natural state of connection with Source. So may we all be purified, may we all be renewed and come again into the truth of who we are, and then unite as one human body together as one heart, so that we are heard by the great Mother of the universe and change sweeps over our world, that the breath of the divine sweeps over our world.
Mm-hmm.
Aho, ashe, amen.
Okay, so here we go. Can you hear okay?
Yes.
Isn't it time we walk on water again? Bring the dead to life and command the wind.
Isn't it time we remember who we are? Born of our Mother Earth and born of the stars, a miracle, a miracle, a miracle. That's who we are. The sun rises the beauty of it all. It moves the Most High, a miracle, a miracle, a miracle. That's who we from deep within her. Truth comes on like a storm, waking what lies dormant. I want this with you. We command the elements. In our body and our lives, calling all of us back home. It's time for us to rise. A miracle, a miracle, a miracle. That's who we are. A miracle. That's who we are. A miracle, a miracle, a miracle. That's who we are. A miracle.
Wow. People loved it. Dr. Laura writes, Ray and Michael, such a beautiful song. You both are miracles. Karen S., great song. Diara, Calling in the Miracles. Susan Woolridge, the dream, you're dreaming the dream coming true. Catherine writes, Heavenly Harmonies. Eleanor Troy writes, this is so very unique and powerful. Beautiful song, beautiful harmony, song bringing tears, and on. They're flooding in. What a hit you guys are. Wow.
Thank you. And did it blow out at all? Are we
A
too
little
loud?
bit. Just a tap.
Yeah.
Just a tap. But the passion and your passion is just so beautiful. And
Thank
a
you.
reminder, everybody, 2 websites, rayamana.com, REYAMANNA.com. And then again, if you haven't already, please go to the sacredhonoref.com, sacredhonoref.com, and join. Clearly, this is the direction for our awakening world. And God bless you both so much. Going to bring up Julie one more time, and Desiree, and Diara, and Phil, all of our friends. I feel like Dorothy at the Wizard of Oz. There we go. Let's thank all of our presenters tonight one last time. Beautiful, beautiful show.
Thank you, Scott. And I just want to say that it's really about us walking together in unity. You know, it's the unity of the masculine and feminine. It's finding our way. It's bridging these gaps. It's not buying into any narrative that tells us that we're separate. And so the more we can come together in love with an open heart and choose to lean in, you know, it's we need each other. And in Kabbalah, they say that at the fall of man, we used to be one being, and then we were broken like a strand of pearls cast across the universe. And the great work is the spiritualization of human consciousness. It's the coming back together as that strand of pearls, which is each and every one of us. So it's not how far we go, but it's that we go together.
Beautiful. Oh, Rhea, you're on fire. God's blessings, everybody. Thank you so much. Hope to see all of you on Saturday night. Take care, everybody.
So much.
Blessings.
Thank you.